My name is William Ortiz, and now I'm going to tell you a story that happened to me in the summer of 2020 in the bustling city of Los Angeles. I remember it vividly, as if it were just yesterday. It was a typical day for me, cruising down the highway in my trusty old truck, delivering goods from one end of the city to the other. Little did I know that this routine journey would soon turn into one of the most exhilarating experiences of my life. As I merged onto the freeway, I noticed two vehicles in my rearview mirror. At first, I didn't think much of it. After all, the highways of Los Angeles were always packed with cars. But as the miles passed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The vehicles seemed to be tailing me, maintaining a steady distance behind my truck. I started to feel a knot form in my stomach as paranoia set in. Who were these people, and why were they following me? I tried to focus on the road ahead, but my mind kept drifting back to the ominous cars behind me. Were they robbers? Kidnappers? My imagination ran wild with possibilities, each one more terrifying than the last. I decided to test my theory and change lanes, hoping to shake off my pursuers. But to my dismay, they followed suit, seamlessly weaving through traffic to stay behind me. Panic began to rise in my chest as I realized that I was being chased, and there was no way to escape. With a sinking feeling, I watched as the cars gradually gained ground on me. They were faster and more maneuverable than my bulky truck, and it was only a matter of time before they caught up. Desperate for a way out, I scanned the road ahead for any sign of help. But there was nothing, just endless rows of cars and concrete barriers stretching into the distance. As the gap between us narrowed, I knew I had to do something, and fast. With a sudden burst of adrenaline, I floored the accelerator, pushing my truck to its limits. The engine roared to life as we hurtled down the highway, the wind whipping through the open windows. But no matter how fast I went, the cars behind me kept pace, their headlights looming ever closer. In a last-ditch effort to escape, I veered off the main highway onto a smaller side road, hoping to lose my pursuers in the maze of city streets. But they were relentless, following me with dogged determination. I could feel the panic rising inside me as I realized that there was no way out. I was trapped, with nowhere to run. With a sickening lurch, one of the cars pulled alongside me, its occupants leering through the tinted windows. I could see the glint of metal as they brandished weapons, their intent clear. They were here to rob me, to take everything I had worked so hard for. But I refused to go down without a fight. Summoning every ounce of courage I had, I swerved sharply to the side, trying to shake off my assailants. The impact sent shockwaves through the truck, rattling my bones as I fought to maintain control. But miraculously, I managed to stay upright, my tires screeching against the asphalt. As I veered around a corner, narrowly avoiding a collision with an oncoming vehicle. The adrenaline coursing through my veins drowned out the pounding of my heart as I pushed my truck to its limits, weaving through the narrow streets with reckless abandon. But just when I thought I had shaken them off, the sound of sirens pierced the air, sending a shiver down my spine. I glanced in the rearview mirror to see flashing lights approaching from behind. The police. Relief flooded through me as I realized that help was finally at hand. With renewed determination, I pressed on, my eyes darting between the road ahead and the approaching police cars. I could hear the shouts of the officers over the roar of the engines as they ordered the pursuing vehicles to pull over. But still they refused to relent, swerving dangerously close to my truck in a desperate bid to escape. It was a tense standoff, the narrow streets of the city transformed into a battleground between law enforcement and criminals. But as the police closed in, the assailants realized that their time was up. With one final burst of speed, they peeled off down a side street, disappearing into the labyrinth of the city. I let out a breath. I hadn't realized I was holding as the police cars pulled up alongside me, their lights still flashing brightly in the darkness. With trembling hands, I rolled down the window and explained everything that had happened, grateful for the safety and security that they provided. After a few moments of conversation, the officers assured me that they would do everything in their power to apprehend the culprits and ensure that justice was served. With a sense of relief washing over me, I watched as they radioed in for backup before escorting me to the nearest police station to file a report. And so, as the sun began to rise over the city's skyline, casting long shadows across the deserted streets, I couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude for the brave men and women who put their lives on the line every day to keep us safe. And as I finally made my way back onto the open road, the memory of that harrowing night would stay with me forever, a reminder of the dangers that lurked just beyond the city limits. My name is Terence Scott, and I'm compelled to share a tale that unfolded during the crisp autumn of 2013, situated amidst the rural expanse just beyond the confines of Oakwood, a sleepy township nestled amidst rolling hills and verdant fields. The events of that night remain vivid in my memory, as though they occurred mere moments ago. It was an unremarkable evening, the chill of fall settling in as I guided my trusty truck along the desolate highway that snaked its way through the countryside. The rhythmic thrum of the engine provided a steady backdrop, punctuated by sporadic crackles of static from the radio. The darkness enveloped the landscape, a thick shroud that obscured the horizon, leaving only the narrow beam of my headlights to pierce the gloom. Lost in contemplation, I was abruptly jolted from my reverie by a sudden lurch, the truck slowing to an unexpected halt. Swearing softly, I guided the vehicle to the shoulder of the road, a surge of apprehension quickening my pulse. Stepping out into the crisp night air, I was met with an eerie stillness, broken only by the distant hoot of an owl. A cursory inspection revealed the source of my predicament, a jagged shard of metal protruding from the tire, its presence heralding a rapid loss of pressure. Frustration gnawed at my nerves as I contemplated the inconvenience of the situation, the isolation of the rural highway amplifying my sense of vulnerability. As I grappled with the implications of my circumstances, a faint sound caught my attention, the unmistakable crunch of gravel underfoot. My senses sharpened in alarm, and I turned just in time to discern shadowy figures emerging from the enveloping darkness. Panic surged within me as adrenaline flooded my veins, propelling me towards the sanctuary of the cabin. Yet, fate intervened, and before I could reach safety, unseen hands seized me from behind, plunging me into a desperate struggle against an unseen assailant. Amidst the chaos, I managed to break free momentarily, my instincts driving me into the dense undergrowth lining the roadside. Heart pounding, I crouched low, straining to discern any signs of pursuit amidst the oppressive silence that enveloped the night. Minutes stretched into an agonizing eternity, every rustle of leaves or distant sound heightening my sense of unease. When at last the silence seemed unbroken, I cautiously emerged from my hiding place, breathless and disoriented. However, my relief was short-lived as I beheld the stark reality before me. The truck, my sole means of escape, had vanished without a trace. A cold knot of dread coiled in the pit of my stomach as I grappled with the implications of being stranded in the heart of the wilderness. With trembling hands, I resolved to seek aid, flagging down passing vehicles in a desperate bid for assistance. Each passing car seemed to mock my desperation, their indifferent headlights illuminating the desolate stretch of road as they disappeared into the night. Hours dragged on like interminable epochs before a benevolent soul finally heeded my plight, offering me a ride to the nearest settlement. Arriving in Oakwood, I wasted no time in contacting the authorities, recounting the harrowing sequence of events in painstaking detail. As the night wore on, law enforcement mobilized a search operation, marshalling every available resource in a determined effort to locate the missing truck. Days blurred into nights as the search expanded, volunteers combing the surrounding countryside in a desperate bid for answers. Yet, despite their exhaustive efforts, the vehicle remained elusive, leaving behind a void that echoed with unanswered questions. In the weeks that followed, I found myself haunted by the memories of that fateful night, tormented by the enigmatic figures that had emerged from the shadows. The incident, though relegated to the annals of local lore, continued to cast a long shadow over my life, a reminder of the fragility of existence and the dangers that lurked beyond the safety of civilization. As I resumed my journey, a pervasive sense of unease lingered, a silent testament to the secrets that lay concealed within the veil of darkness. In the heart of the rugged Pacific Northwest, where the mountains loom like ancient sentinels and the winding roads carve through the wilderness like ribbons of asphalt, my journey took an unexpected turn. As I maneuvered my trusty rig along the treacherous mountain passes, the mechanical beast that had faithfully carried me through countless miles suddenly groaned and shuddered, its power faltering like a flickering flame in the wind. With a sinking heart, I realized I was stranded, a lone traveler at the mercy of the unforgiving terrain. The nearest town lay distant, its lights mere pinpricks in the vast expanse of wilderness that stretched out before me. But in the silence of the mountains, where the only sounds were the rustling of leaves and the distant cry of wildlife, help seemed a distant dream. It was then that the first sign of trouble appeared on the horizon, a pair of headlights cutting through the darkness like twin beacons of danger. Two vehicles, their outlines ominous against the night sky, drew closer, and from their depths emerged a group of figures whose intentions were as clear as the mountain air. They wanted what I had, and they wouldn't take no for an answer. My heart pounding like a jackhammer in my chest, I braced myself for the confrontation that I knew was coming. These were no ordinary travelers, no friendly faces offering assistance in my hour of need. They were predators, their eyes gleaming with hunger as they advanced upon me, like wolves closing in on their prey. But if there's one thing I've learned in my years on the road, it's that a trucker's spirit is as indomitable as the mountains themselves. With gritted teeth and steely resolve, I faced them down, refusing to bow to their demands. Though fear gnawed at my insides like a hungry beast, I stood my ground, ready to defend what was mine with every ounce of strength I possessed. The air crackled with tension as the standoff escalated, words giving way to violence as blows were exchanged and shots rang out into the night. Pain blossomed like a flower in my chest as I felt the sting of bullets tearing through flesh. But still I fought on, fueled by a primal instinct to survive against all odds. And then, like a bolt from the blue, an opportunity presented itself. A fleeting moment of weakness in my assailant's defenses, a chance to break free from the vice-like grip of danger that held me in its clutches. With a surge of adrenaline that seemed to lend wings to my feet, I seized the opportunity and made a desperate bid for freedom, leaving my would-be attackers in my dust as I raced into the night like a bat out of hell. Hours passed in a blur of pain and exhaustion as I stumbled through the wilderness, every step a battle against the darkness that threatened to swallow me whole. But just when it seemed like all hope was lost, salvation appeared on the horizon in the form of flashing lights and the distant wail of sirens. With the last vestiges of my strength, I pressed on, guided by the promise of safety that beckoned like a beacon in the night. And when I finally stumbled into the welcoming embrace of the waiting paramedics, their faces a blur of concern and relief, I knew that I had made it, that against all odds I had survived. But even as I lay on that hospital bed, my body battered and broken, but my spirit unbroken, I knew that my ordeal was far from over. For in the heart of those remote mountains, where the shadows lurk like spectres in the night, there are still predators waiting in the darkness, and it falls to those with the courage to face them to ensure that the light of justice prevails. In the aftermath of the harrowing ordeal, my mind replayed the events like a relentless reel of film. Each moment etched into my memory with a clarity that bordered on obsession, reliving the terror and the triumph in equal measure. The hospital room, with its sterile white walls and antiseptic scent, became my sanctuary in the wake of the chaos that had unfolded on the roadside. Nurses bustled about, their faces masks of concern, as they attended to my injuries with gentle hands and soothing words. But despite their best efforts, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease that settled over me like a heavy fog, a lingering reminder of the danger that still lurked beyond the safety of these walls. In the days that followed, as I lay confined to my hospital bed, my thoughts turned to the events that had led me to this place. The chance encounter on a lonely stretch of highway, the sudden descent into chaos, and the desperate struggle for survival that had followed. Each memory was a jagged shard of glass, cutting into my consciousness with a sharpness that left me breathless with its intensity. But amidst the darkness, there was also light, the knowledge that I had emerged victorious against all odds, that I had stared into the abyss and refused to blink. It was a small comfort, to be sure, but in the face of such overwhelming adversity, even the smallest victories shone like beacons of hope in the night. As the days stretched into weeks and my strength slowly returned, I found solace in the simple routines of hospital life. The taste of bland hospital food, the drone of the television in the corner, the reassuring presence of the medical staff who tended to my every need with unwavering dedication. My name is Paul Johnson, and now I'm going to tell you a story that happened to me in the year 2012, in the quiet town of Thornwood. I was just a regular trucker, navigating the highways and byways of the country, ferrying goods from one place to another. It was a lonely job at times, but the freedom of the open road had always appealed to me. One crisp autumn evening, I found myself driving down a deserted road, surrounded by nothing but darkness and the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. The moon cast an eerie glow over the landscape, and the only sound was the steady hum of my truck's engine. Little did I know that this seemingly mundane night would soon turn into a nightmare. As I drove along, lost in my thoughts, I heard a faint noise coming from the back of my truck. At first, I dismissed it as nothing more than the creaking of the old vehicle. But as the noise grew louder, my curiosity got the better of me. I pulled over to the side of the road and stepped out of the cab, making my way to the back of the truck. With a sense of trepidation, I unlocked the rear door and swung it open, only to be greeted by a sight that sent shivers down my spine. Several shadowy figures lurked in the darkness, their faces obscured by the dim light filtering in from the moon above. Before I could react, they lunged at me, their movements swift and menacing. Instinct kicked in, and I fought back with all the strength I could muster. Blow after blow was exchanged as we grappled in the cramped confines of the truck's cargo hold. Adrenaline coursed through my veins as I struggled to fend off my assailants, each one seemingly more determined than the last. But despite their numbers, I refused to go down without a fight. With sheer determination and a stroke of luck, I managed to overpower them, sending them reeling back into the darkness. Gasping for breath, I staggered out of the truck, my heart pounding in my chest. With trembling hands, I reached for my phone and dialed the emergency number, frantically recounting the harrowing ordeal that had just unfolded. Within minutes, the sound of sirens filled the air as help arrived, bringing with it a sense of relief and safety. As the authorities took control of the situation, I couldn't help but reflect on the events that had transpired. It was a stark reminder of the dangers that lurked in the darkness, unseen and unsuspected until it was too late. But amidst the chaos and uncertainty, one thing was clear. I had faced my fears head-on and emerged victorious. From that day on, I vowed to never take the safety of the open road for granted. Every journey would be a reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of staying vigilant in the face of adversity. And as I drove off into the night, the memories of that fateful encounter would forever be etched into my mind, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of danger.